على جمعة الخير هلا حني قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another Wednesday's edition of Let's Talk with me, Julie Alli. And as always on a Wednesday, we come to you live from our Sunning Hill studios right here in Johannesburg. Great to be with you as always. Three amazing ladies on the show this morning. We have Bahia Khan. She is the South African game developer. We'll be talking to her in the last segment of the show this morning. And then two regulars, two friends or family members of ITV Networks, and they are Elenia Kolokotronis. She'll be here to talk nutrition and how to prepare for the winter months, which we know is just around the corner. But first up, a dear friend, as I've said, a friend of ITV, the lovely Razia Mohammed. She's a life coach and a mentor, and she's here to talk to us about life coaching, but with a difference. Now, I'm sure you will remember that for quite some time now, we've been talking and pushing the agenda of the fourth industrial revolution. And for those of us who are not in the workplace, we kind of wonder, what is it all about? How does it touch our lives? Does it in fact make an impact? Well, I have news for you. Razia says that it's here and it is touching our lives in a very big way, and she's taking life coaching to a totally new level. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me again, Julie. I love being on your show.
Well, as I've said, both you and Elenia are almost family members. You dear friends of ITV, and we truly appreciate the time that you make available to talk about all of these wonderful things happening around us in the world. Now, we've talked with you many a time about life coaching, about mentoring. We've talked the CBT approach. We've talked a whole host...
NLP as well.
A whole host of approaches. And it also, the last time we spoke to you, it seemed as if NLP was overtaking CBT. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
And now here you are talking to us about coaching, but you're also talking digital coaching, you're talking augmented reality and virtual reality.
Yes.
So this pushes us definitely into the fourth industrial revolution. Let's start right at the beginning. How is this going to change the landscape of coaching?
Okay, let me quickly explain what virtual reality is. So virtual reality is the use of computer technology to be able to create a simulated environment. So when I say that, all this 3D and 4D and 5D and robotics that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, those are perfect examples of virtual reality.
So I'm thinking I sign up for a coaching session with you, but a virtual reality coaching session. Does that mean I'm going to be off-site? I'm going to be sitting at home, and I'm going to link up with you via Skype, etc. And that's how the coaching happens?
So a little bit of background of how this is now taking shape and form. So the universe gives you whatever you ask for, and I have asked to reach a global audience. So we are not always able to go globally and start talking, but when you are in a virtual space, you are able to talk globally. So I have been fortunate enough to be able to meet the CEO of a global company. And together the two of us chatted, and we have formed a startup company called Because Digital.
Wow.
So Because Digital, in a nutshell, is taking conventional coaching, it's taking virtual reality, and it's taking augmented reality. I will explain in a bit what augmented reality really is. So it's taking these three phenomenon, and it's merging it together to be able to package it and reach out to corporates, reach out to big, small corporates, to SMMEs, or to the layman out there. And what I do is we have a team of coaches in a virtual space to be able to chat to you globally and get you from A to B in a positive way. So this encompasses leadership training. It encompasses skills training, leadership development, creation of business apps as well. And alhamdulillah, we now have a few corporates that have signed up with us in this virtual space, and I'm able to now coach globally.
How is this different to long distance learning, which obviously we've all been exposed to over the years? What would the key difference be between long distance learning and perhaps virtual, the virtual coach, virtual reality, digital coaching, and augmented reality?
Okay, so we have now become, especially in the fourth industrial revolution, we have become a generation of instant gratification. Not my favorite, but that's what it's become.
It's been around. Instant gratification has been around for a long, long time. We just need to look at our kids and their demands.
Exactly.
And we know where we're at.
They want instant gratification.
Absolutely.
So the difference between long distance learning and then the digital coaching is that you basically have a coach on tap. So you have a coach for your augmented reality, you have a coach for your virtual reality, and then you have a coach for your day-to-day adversities that you go through. So what we've done is we've created apps, and with that is you are able to tap into those apps, and it's kind of like a gaming device. So that's also going into the fourth industrial revolution. So it's kind of a gaming device where you need to complete tasks to be able to go to the next level.
So again, is this kind of individual independent learning rather than interacting with a teacher or in or a classroom setting? Because a lot of people, myself especially, I love the human interaction.
Yes.
So if I'm doing any form of training, I want to interact with a human being in person.
Yes. Okay. So the way that the learning will take place, and you are more than welcome to then go into from the virtual space to be able to access me one-on-one. But the way you will access me or other coaches is on a virtual platform. But the way augmented reality works, like for example, of augmented reality, the famous Pokemon Go game.
Yeah.
Or Google Sky Maps, also where you can pinpoint yourself to the millisecond of where you are. When you interact with me, it will be almost as if I am sitting in front of you and we are conversing. And yet it's on a virtual platform.
What happens, the mind boggles. Goodness me, the mind boggles. So what happens if you are interacting with a group of 10 people and you're using these different platforms, virtual reality, and you're doing leadership training?
Right.
And somebody else, also clients of yours, need some personal instant coaching from you at that point in time.
Yes.
What would happen in a situation like that?
So it's multifaceted. And that's why it's myself and it's a team of other coaches as well. So it will be, I will be able to cater to a classroom. So it will be a classroom setting. The way it will be structured is that I'm sitting there and I'm conversing with 10 other people in a leadership scenario.
And the 10 people you're talking about are in different destinations, possibly
Yes.
around the globe.
Yes. So they are able to sign in through a link. And through that, it's much like video conferencing,
Yes.
teleconferencing, where you access people around the globe, but then they are able to virtually sit in a classroom setting. And it's almost as if we are sitting together. So the individual that I've joined prefers not to be named because he's the CEO of this company and it's private, I would say, but he is a digital fundi on another level. So the things that he has exposed me to, I was mind boggled. And then a light bulb moment came to me, and I said, hey, my dream of going global with digital coaching can actually be a reality. So he has shown me things that actually almost like a halogram, where you can have your loved one in China and you are in South Africa. And the way that you can augment your reality is that you can be sitting together in a room and watching a movie together.
My word.
But that is what it's taken over. So from the steam engine to the electricity, to the advent of computers, and now to virtual and augmented reality.
Is this the first of its kind in South Africa? Look, we know that as far as games and gaming is concerned, augmented and virtual reality has been around for a while now. But as far as possibly real-time learning and training is concerned, would this be a first?
I would think so, because the corporates that I've pitched to are excited because they say they haven't heard of something like this before. So I would say that it's the first of its kind. It obviously, people jump on the bandwagon, but it's about delivering and giving your service and giving the best of yourself. So it's about taking the best in the business, joining with them, and then giving out your best to society. And that's always my vision.
Let's talk about the pros and cons of all of this after the ad break, but also you need to unpack augmented reality, but all of that after the ad break. Razia Mohammed, life coach, is in studio with me, and this time around, yes, she is talking coaching, she is talking leadership training, she is talking mentoring, but on a totally different level. We're talking virtual reality and augmented reality. And still to come on the program, Bahia Khan will be talking about the award that she has bagged for herself as far as gaming is concerned. And Elenia Kolokotronis is standing by to talk about seasonal changes and how it impacts on not only our moods, but our general health and well-being. But right now we're talking digital coaching, virtual and augmented reality. Do all of these concepts work together? Big words.
Yes.
If you've been exposed to these type of platforms for the first time or haven't even attempted to understand them, I should imagine it could be pretty daunting for you.
Yes, very much so. So in the corporate space, we come across many people who are fearful of this fourth industrial revolution because many people have lost their jobs due to the advent of robotics and virtual and augmented reality taking over their jobs. So my job in this digital coaching space is to teach people how to upskill themselves in the simplest way possible so that they can not lose their jobs. All they do is upskill themselves and be able to stay within their environment a step ahead of robotics.
Razia, the reality is that very especially 35 and above, people kind of are in a space of comfort. And when you tell them to start upskilling,
yes,
they may
they
not
get
have
excited.
No,
They get
and the
scared.
energy. They may not have the energy to upskill, and then they're very reluctant, perhaps for a career change, because upskilling suggests career change. How do you get around that? As a life coach, I'm certain that you have to do a bit of support on that side
Yes.
before you teach them new skills
That
or
is
enhanced
why,
skills.
Yes, now, a good question there. So that is why I am retaining the people element with this digital coaching. So remember, we always say change your mind, change your life. So in order for you to be a step ahead of robotics, you need to change your thought processes. You need to change your mind to change your life, to be able to stay a step ahead. And what we have done rather, is we've rolled out packages in the simplest way possible. So it's not like you will be clicking on and then it will be, oh my word, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do gaming. It's done in a simplest way possible, and you are able to access me and other coaches in a virtual space, but in a positive way.
I should imagine for people, and we do know that the majority of people are either on Facebook, or they access Twitter and all of these platforms
Yes.
on a very regular basis. And if you're doing that, and if you're able to navigate your way around those platforms very comfortably, then I should imagine this virtual and augmented reality learning that we're talking about, or coaching for that matter, can't be all that difficult.
Well, if you access Facebook and if you're accessing Instagram and Snapchat and whatever else it may be, it's a virtual platform.
Absolutely.
Because you are talking to someone on a virtual level. They are not in front of you. So you're already engaging in virtual reality. So augmented reality, let me just explain a little bit of what that is. Augmented reality is taking the real physical world and taking the virtual world and kind of merging it together to create this platform.
Would that be, what we've seen advertised all around us? You wear those special glasses or helmets and you have that experience. Would that be the merger of the two? And if you're going to answer in the affirmative, it comes with risks as well, does it not?
So what you're talking about is virtual reality,
Okay.
where you're putting on the special goggles and all of that, and that can boggle anyone over the age of 35. But augmented reality is taking the real physical world, taking that virtual world and meshing it together.
Give us an example.
So like I said, like Pokemon Go.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So Pokemon Go, what happened was there was this creature and you had to go and find him and have clues and go and find him. And how many millions of people
were hooked.
globally did that?
Yes.
So you are engaging in augmented reality without even realizing that you're engaging in it.
Okay.
Or like I said, Google Sky Maps. Or Google Maps, for example, it's all in a virtual space.
And the moment we hear the word augmented or virtual reality, or we hear the word fourth industrial revolution, we kind of feel or believe that it's way over our heads.
Yes.
And yet we're engaging with it on a daily basis without realizing it. But I guess when you talk digital coaching, people start thinking differently because they're thinking this belongs in the corporate space and
Yes.
not in our everyday lives.
And that would be incorrect, because you are already engaging in a virtual space. If you are on any form of social media, you're already engaging in a virtual space. And this very much affects you, because it affects your daily life. It affects, as you step outside, you're already engaging in virtual and augmented reality. This is a reality, and you either be a casualty where you fall aside, or you can be a victor in all of this here. And which one would you choose?
Of course, the victor. In terms of costs, are they going to be prohibitive? Let's assume we engage with someone like you who's now doing digital coaching.
Yes.
Will the costs remain the same, or are they going to differ?
So I would like to put out there that it's not that I'm only available on a virtual space going forward.
Okay.
I am available on a one-to-one level as well for those who feel more comfortable being in that space. But the virtual space, what it will be is an app or a continuation of apps. And what you will do is the way you log on to Facebook or the way you log on to Instagram, etc., you log on to the app. and then you have services and you have a menu. You click onto me and there I am.
And it's real-time interaction.
It's real-time interaction, and what I'll do is I'll have videos, I'll have talks, I'll have a paid subscription where I can give you courses. Not me only, so it's a team of us coaches which show that they are able to give the best service ever.
So let's look at facts and myths around this space.
Yes.
And also challenges.
The challenges are, like, as I'm seeing the almost reluctance on a person over 35 to 40. And what I'd like to say is most users of Facebook these days are over 40, because the younger generation have moved on to Snapchat and all the other things. So it's kind of become an age-appropriate thing. So I challenge you and I urge you not to be afraid of the fourth industrial revolution. Embrace it, take it with open arms, and you see a whole new virtual world opening up.
I did ask you just now about cost implications.
Yes.
You haven't responded to that. Just let's make our viewers comfortable about this.
Okay, so what it is, it will be a subscription where every time you click, I'm not going to put a definite cost on it, but it will be a very minimal cost, and it will be time dependent to be able to access whatever it is that you want to access. So every time you click, there will be free access, and then there will be paid access. Mm-hmm. Obviously, paid access is individual one-on-one coaching, or paid access would be the individual courses that I will be doing. But on a daily basis, there will be videos, there will be motivational quotes. What's in trending now lately is the calming apps, which I do a lot of those anyway on a one-to-one basis.
What are those?
NLP calming apps.
Okay, for people who are stressed and
Which
anxiety-ridden.
Which is most of us on a daily basis.
Of course.
So you don't have to be a corporate person to have stress. You don't have to be a person that is in a high-powered position to have stress.
Right, right.
So the calming apps, the motivation, the videos that I will have on a daily basis, etc., etc., etc.
And how often will you change them? Because I don't want to keep going to the apps and find the same message being repeated to me on possibly an ongoing basis.
So it won't be only me, so there will be diversity.
Okay.
So there will be me and then a host of other virtual, augmented and digital coaching coaches.
24/7.
24/7.
With 2 minutes to go, let's hand over to you to wrap up and summarize what we've been talking about.
So my take on this is that do not be afraid of the fourth industrial revolution. Embrace it and with open arms, and you will see that you will integrate into the space positively. A lot of the things, I mean, with my children, the online shopping thing, when I was exposed to it first, and I would be like, no, I will not give my credit card details out there, and then I don't know if the thing is going to come to me and all of that. And they laughed at me and they said that it comes to you, and it's a new way of shopping now, which they engage.
It's huge overseas.
It's
I think
huge
it's going to
here
take
as well now.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Especially with the issues around traffic and affordability of getting around and high petrol prices. So this would be the way to shop.
Exactly. So isn't that virtual and augmented reality? Where you're seeing the beautiful scarf that you have on right now, you're seeing it online, and then you're paying for it online, and it's being delivered to you online.
And that's where we have to leave it. Lots of luck. We'll possibly touch sides with you in a couple of months' time to hear just how it's going.
Awesome.
So there you have it. Digital coaching, augmented and virtual reality is the way of not necessarily the future, the now.
The now.
We need to embrace it, and we need to get really used to it. In fact, we are already embracing it by what Razia has told us, Facebook and all of our other interactions via social media. Well, there you have it. I was wondering what she's going to unpack, and it's actually simpler than I thought it would be. Don't go away. Elenia Kolokotronis is going to talk to us about seasonal changes, and later on, Bahia Khan will be talking about the award she has won. And we have the lovely Elenia Kolokotronis in studio talking to us about seasonal changes. She is a clinical nutritionist. She works at a local clinic, and of course you do recognize her. She is a regular here at ITV Networks, and always a pleasure to have her in studio. But before we talk seasonal changes, we're going to talk a little bit about her thesis. Morning, welcome to the program.
Morning, my Julie. Thank you for having me again.
Always a pleasure. I'm fascinated. You've just told me that you're not seeing the sun rising every morning because you're now busy with your thesis. Tell us a little bit about it.
It was just a realization when I did a small research, very small research, 25 people, on when they're eating and why they're eating. And all of them never ate when they were hungry. And most of them responded that when they see an advertisement or the gross bombardment of advertisements of what to eat, they became hungry regardless of they've just eaten or not. And that was interesting to me because a lot of those exact people that I chose to look at had a health condition. Either they were overweight or obese or had an insulin problem of some kind or a fertility condition. And so in order for me to defend my research to do a doctorate, I thought that that would be something quite interesting to look at how the incessant bombardment, because it is, of advertising of foods that are not good for us affect our health in the long run.
Ever since you and I formed this relationship
Yes.
with ITV, and you've been coming in, I think this is your 6th or your 8th appearance here,
Lost track.
we talk about nutrition.
Yes.
And it seems, I now get a sense that we, modern day man, is obsessed with food.
We are.
Would I be correct in thinking that?
100%.
And why?
I think a lot of it is cultural. You and I discuss this all the time. We nourish our loved ones with food. We pass time with baking and cooking. The people who don't bake and cook, it's become so easy now. There's 24-hour stops. You drive through and get a meal for your family. Everything is just so easily accessible. However, the problem, and this is what my research is that what's so easily accessible is not good for us. Mm-hmm. So, and you know me, Julie, I love a pizza, I love a burger, but it's a problem because that's all we're consuming all the time. And so that's made a huge dent in our health, especially children. So it was a very interesting thing to research, to get everything prepared, to go and say, this is what I want to have a doctorate in, this is what my thesis is about, have a look and see. And it was quite astounding because it's not just in South Africa, it is everywhere, because the general consensus is that the families now, because a family dynamic has changed all over the world, it's not like it was before, no one really spends time in a kitchen anymore. Rarely do people spend time in the kitchen, and even more rare than that is someone that's cooking a breakfast, a lunch and a supper. That doesn't happen. Perhaps everything is on the go and maybe a dinner is cooked twice a week. It's very rare what you and I do and what a few other people do. And life's changed, so I understand why the research and the thesis is about the end result of that. And it's problematic.
And we also know that packaged food, ready-made food, food on the go, is filled with sugars,
correct,
colorants, and preservatives, etc. And all of that obviously has an impact on our health.
100%.
That being said, let's assume we as modern man continue this lifestyle of ours, this way of eating. But we also balance it by exercising really regularly. And just try and keep fit that way. Do you think we would create a balance? Or
I think it would be an abnormal balance because we know that thin isn't healthy. We know overweight obviously is not healthy too. So I suspect that if we continued to do that, we would have a body that looks well, but internally we're not. So there are a lot of people that walk around with diabetes, cholesterols, insulin problems, fertility conditions, and they look okay, they look well, but internally they're not. And I think that unless things are done, and we've spoken about this, education is done at schools or at corporate companies, or trying to get information out there as to the long-term effects of living, because how we eat is how we live. Living like this, it's not going to end well. And
we've actually, as you speak, I've just realized that we've become a nation, or globally, we've become food and sugar addicts.
of course we have.
So
Feels
each
good.
and every one of us are addicts walking
100%.
around. We're hooked onto something or the other.
You're correct, Julie, because I tell everyone that I consult with, there isn't one person that doesn't walk around with a condition, physically or mentally, or everyone has a condition. But the research that I've been doing, it's never ending, so I can't say it's finished because it'll never end. It's incredibly scary as to how rife the foods that we're eating and how ill it's making us. Even the food, if we prepare it fresh, you have to look at the source of the food, full of pesticides, waxed to make it look pretty. Like it really is scary, and I'm not pedantic about those kinds of things, but if you look at everything spherically and take everything into account, it's very scary.
I have to ask you this question.
Yes.
As you know, we're Muslim,
Yes.
and with the onset of Ramadan, which is just literally around the corner,
Correct.
what the majority of South African Muslims do, I'm not sure if it's a practice around the world, but what we do in preparation of that month is we cook up a lot of foods, lots of finger foods, and we store, we freeze it.
Correct.
And it frees us up in the month of Ramadan to be more, spend time in spirituality.
Correct.
So you just kind of go to your freezer, take out a couple of meals, and then, prepare it, and you've got all of this time on your hands. The issue around freezing food and possibly eating it a couple of weeks or a couple of months later, what's that impact like on your health?
Julie, you know what? Realistically speaking, the whole world does it. And because it's only done for a set amount of time in the year, it's not a yearly thing. It's okay. It depends on what you're freezing. If you're freezing not cottage pies, but the foods
pies,
that you...
cottage
yes,
pies,
but foods
samosas,
that,
and the whole
correct.
tutti.
Those are things that are okay, because during the day, that's not all you're eating.
We hope not.
We hope not. I had this discussion with a family member. I said, as long as you're snacking on an apple or you're having a bite of cucumber, something that's raw, that's good, it doesn't matter as long as that is not practiced throughout the entire year. It's just for a set amount of time. It won't do anything drastic to your health because it's not every day. You're not eating something cooked and frozen, cooked that's been frozen and then eating it. You're getting some kind of raw, you're getting, it's okay. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's okay for now.
All right. Okay. So we are going to talk about seasonal changes,
Yes.
and undoubtedly, winter's around the corner.
Yes.
The sniffles, etc., is going to start up. That brings me right back to the nutrition question.
Yes.
That surely has an impact on
Huge.
seasonal changes, does it not?
Huge, Julie, huge. So people always come to me and they say to me, Elania, I don't know what's happened, but I think it's because it's winter, my body's just stored everything I've eaten. And I'll say, that's not really true, because that's a myth. Your body doesn't automatically store everything you put in your mouth because winter has come. It's a side effect of the cold weather and the darker, longer days. And when that happens is our bodies change with the seasons. People don't understand that, but it's true. So, for example, we need sunlight to give us vitamin D. Vitamin D helps us with serotonin, which is a mind-brain thing. It's responsible for all that. Makes us feel good. Levels our emotional state. Emotional state makes us calmer. Everything's okay. But when the days are longer and darker, there isn't a lot of sunlight. And so we wake up when it's dark, and after a long day of working in an office, we go home when it's dark. We miss out on that. And that's what makes us feel depressed and down and, lethargic. And when we feel like that, what we want is
Something to make us feel good.
the foods that make us feel good. And winter goes with that. Winter goes with baking and making stews and pot pies and all the things that are not so great. Added to that, the cold weather, it goes along with making our immune systems low. Cold weather doesn't make us sick. It's not that makes us sick. We get sick for longer in winter because our immune systems are down. So, those things are easily combated. We need to make sure that our sleeping patterns stay consistent. You sleep and you wake up at these times regardless of if you want to sleep more or not. Hyper sleep is something that they call it human hibernation. That's a very real thing. We want to sleep all the time when it's winter, and that's very bad. So keeping your sleeping patterns in check is important. But nutrition is probably the most important, anti-inflammatory foods.
We're going for an ad break. When we come back, let's talk a little more about hibernating, why it's bad for humans, why it's okay for animals but not for humans, and other seasonal disorders that are more common during the winter months rather than the summer months. And also, if you pop a vitamin D pill, is that going to do the trick? All of that and more right after the ad break. Elenia Kolokotronis is my guest. She is a clinical nutritionist talking about seasonal changes and why it makes you feel so depressed and so down. And welcome back. I am talking to the lovely Elenia Kolokotronis. She is a clinical nutritionist. She practices at a local clinic. We're talking seasonal changes. We're going to touch on SAD, which is, of course, seasonal affective disorders. We're also going to be looking at winter tiredness or human hibernation syndrome. That's a real thing, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Why is it different for mammals, animals, and not for us?
It's just different. We're a different species. We're not, well, there are some men that are covered in hair, but I mean, we don't have furs, and we're just a different species altogether. I think that we've lost touch with ourselves and with the planet, and I know how that might sound, but I so often have women who phone me late at night saying, this is who I am, I need your help, I think I have depression. And it's always at this time as we're going, autumn into winter, always. Everyone always thinks that they have depression or they have major anxiety disorder, and do they need antidepressants? And I explain to them that as the seasons change, so do we.
How would one know without consulting with you or another type of medical practitioner? How would people know that this is just the seasonal changes that's affecting your mood, rather than possibly an onset of clinical depression for that matter, or even mild depression?
Often in patients that have bipolar disorders or that are diagnosed clinically as having a mental condition, depression, anxiety disorder and so on, it does get exacerbated at this time of the year. But people that are just, they don't have those conditions yet they feel they're in a bad space, or they feel that they're incessantly they're just sad all the time. They don't want to socialize. The telltale signs are just basically wanting to stay indoors, not wanting to socialize, struggling to go to work, not being able to function as before. And a lot of it is self-diagnosed. And so, they'll phone their doctors or they'll phone me and we'll suggest light therapy, or we'll suggest changing what they eat, because what you eat in winter, because we crave so much bad foods and we know it, that depresses us too. But in all honesty, Julie, in winter you don't want to have a salad. You want to have hearty foods and
Hot
so on.
foods,
So,
yes.
yeah. So seasonal affective disorders very easily aided.
Managed.
Yes. You just need to be aware. You need to be aware of what happens when...
Okay, signs and symptoms, and you also spoke about light therapy.
Yes.
How's that going to help, and the type of diet you then follow in winter?
Okay, so seasonal affective disorder is a very real thing. It's not something that someone sucked out of their thumb. Human beings need sun. Luckily for us in South Africa, we have an okay winter compared to the rest of the world. So I always tell everyone, just get into the sun, because even on our coldest days, there is some sun. So with your face in the shade, just sit in the sun for 10 minutes or so. Just get natural light. Don't go underneath those, they've got those light therapy. You go lie in the bed and you get a tan while you're at it, and then they tell you they're giving you vitamin D. That's okay, but it's it's like winning the battle and not the war. Rather go sit in the natural source of light that's been given to us. Go sit in the sun, because we need sunlight. Sunlight is our vitamin D. And that has a knock-on effect more often than not.
What about vitamin D supplements? Would that help? Let's assume you don't go out in the sun, or there is no sun, or you have a skin condition and you can't, go out in the sun. Would that do the trick?
It helps. I always tell people to take vitamin D and magnesium in winter time if they're feeling a certain way, because those are the things that help the most. It's anti-stress and it helps with moods and so on. But ultimately, it's our patterns in winter that either exasperate or aid any disorder that comes with winter. So I'll tell people to keep their sleeping patterns very strict. Keep to your sleeping patterns. If you go to bed at 9 o'clock, go to bed at 9 o'clock and wake up and get up at 6 or 7. Don't lie in bed because it's rainy and cold and you don't want to face the traffic, and because that brings on a whole nother, set of conditions. Be aware of what you're eating. Eat anti-inflammatory, nourishing foods. I mean, you can have the most amazing foods, and they can be nourishing foods, winter foods. It just has to be the right kind of foods. Stay social. I insist on people remaining social. Even if you don't want to leave your house, invite people for a dinner or invite people for cake and tea or whatever it is. Stay social. And also you need some kind of fitness activity regime in winter. You don't have to go to the gym, but you need to stay active. You have to.
What about people in the northern regions, in the northern hemisphere? I'm thinking Norway, Sweden, etc. I mean, they have perhaps 3 months, if that, of sunlight. How do they manage? What's the trick there? They healthy, strapping-looking people.
Correct.
What is the trick?
If you look at them as a society, they're incredibly social and they're very active. Even when it's snowing outside and it's freezing, everyone's in the streets, everyone's still riding their bikes, everyone's carrying on with their lives. No one is huddled indoors. Certainly, I mean, they'll spend a lot more time indoors because it's warm, but they still remain social, they still remain active. They do winter swimming, they cut big blocks out in the ice and go for a swim. They're very social as a society. They're very social and they're very active, and that gets them through. Whereas the minute it's a little bit too cold for our South African winter, no one even goes to school, no one goes to work. So it's just, we should start mimicking that, because our winters are actually not as bad as the rest of the world. We're quite lucky.
For those people who do suffer from obviously seasonal affective disorders, they just can't get it together when winter arrives. Do you have a plan that they could start, engaging with, so that they don't become depressed in the winter months, and that they remain healthy and they don't cop out and say that they're sick?
Correct. So what we do is we have a plan in check where we do full bloods to make sure that there is no iron deficiency, no illness, no thyroid problems, all of that. Once that is done, we get, because everybody, my meal plans are not the same for everyone, everyone's different. We look at what they're eating and we look at why they're eating it. And then we make it family conscious, so it's not just for him or her, it's for the entire family. And it's very normal. My eating is normal, Julie. There is chocolate, there is cake. It's just when and why. And we make sure that their sleeping patterns are correct. They go to bed and wake up at the right time. There's some form of activity. They remain social. I am in constant contact with everyone that I work with. And they're not alone. They need some kind of support. So whether it's a friend or a family or me, it's just a passing phase, if it's nothing more serious.
And obviously you'll know it's not a passing phase if it lingers on after the winter.
If it's been
then you
for a
really
while.
Do need medical intervention of some sort.
They need an assessment of some kind, and they need a medical support there in the form of either chemical medication. They need to maybe go for a scan just to see what's happening. But a lot of the times it's seasonal. It really is. A lot of the people that come to me, it's seasonal.
What about children? How does this disorder affect children? Now, I'm just thinking you've got to send them to school, sporting activities, etc. Are they kind of just naturally exuberant, love life? I'm kind of wondering, how does it impact on them?
Babies. So my sons, for example, when it's cold and when it's rainy and dark outside, they sleep longer. They don't, because my boys are like me. 5:30, 6, they're up. The older one might go 6:30, but when it's winter and it's cold and it's rainy and they went to bed dark and they're waking up dark, they immediately go back to sleep. And when we work with children, that a lot of parents...
So that's that's suggesting there's something going on with the body clock and the darkness and the weather.
Correct. So it affects at some stage, in some way, it affects children too. They say, you know, put the radio on and put the lights in the room on. Don't open the thing until the kids are dressed with their teeth brushed, ready for school, so that they don't know. But they know, because even you can see while they're brushing their teeth, they're busy falling asleep. It's the most amazing thing. So seasonal changes affects everyone in varying degrees, but it does affect everyone. And you can see it as well if you go to the gym. In summertime at 6 o'clock in the morning, the gym is packed. You can't find a parking. But when it's winter and it's cold, there's maybe 3 cars in the parking lot. So it's just...
And that's really the time when you need it most.
Correct.
Because obviously when you exercise, you feel better about,
100%.
you know, all of the endorphins that you're releasing, etc.
Correct.
You do feel good about yourself.
Yes.
You can take on the world.
You can. And also you need it a lot more in winter. You need that activity. You need your muscles to be worked and stretched. You need all of those things to get going for the winter months. And like I tell everyone, winter is my favorite month. It really is. But it does affect people differently. And so they just need to know that it's nothing more serious than that if it's just in the winter months or in the colder months. And people, you know, people panic, Julie, then they jump onto Google, and then Google tells them a whole lot of good stuff and a whole lot of bad stuff, and they panic even more.
Right.
So it's a very normal thing to feel in winter.
With about 2 minutes to wrap up, let's summarize everything we've talked about and some really good tips for the onset of winter, how we can feel and be better this coming winter.
Embrace the season. You know, embrace the season. It's a nice time to get warmly dressed. It's nice and it's snug. More time spent in the kitchen, remain social, eat foods that nourish your immune system.
What about flus and colds? Is there anything one could do, I mean, apart from being in packed, crowded rooms, for example? But, you know, again, I should imagine the diet kicks in.
It does. So cold weather doesn't cause flus and colds. We need to also be very well aware that our immune systems are naturally more down in the winter months, and so that's why fighting a flu or a cold naturally in the winter months is a bit more difficult. So you do need your medications if it's persisting. Citrus fruits, vitamin C's, olive oils, garlics, onions, full cream organic yogurts, nuts, almonds, all the good stuff that's in season in any way for us here in South Africa is what we need to eat. Stay away from bad foods, because all it's going to do is just going to lower your immunity even more, exacerbate whatever illness is going to come, make you feel worse, more depressed, more sluggish, more lethargic. It's no need. I mean, just no need. Enjoy winter. It's my favorite. I actually cannot wait. I have my winter clothes all ready to go.
I can't say that I agree with you. I hate the winter, but thank you indeed for being with us and giving us hope that it ain't going to be such a bad winter after all, if we follow your advice, obviously.
No, it's going to be fine, I promise.
Thank you indeed for being with us, and good luck on your doctorate.
Thank you, Julie.
We'll hook up with you later on.
Thank you.
That was a lovely Elenia Kolokotronis talking to us about seasonal changes. And still to come in on the program is Bahia Khan. She's going to talk about an amazing competition that she has won. Can't wait to hear what that is all about. And welcome back. I'm talking to the gorgeous Bahia Khan. She's here to talk about an amazing award that she's won. And I'm so fascinated by what she's been telling me off air. Let's share everything she's been talking about with you as well. She is a gaming developer and she's won a couple of awards. Bahia, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We're fascinated to have you here. You must be the only Muslim person or Muslim girl that I've come across that is a game developer. So explain to us, what does a game developer do?
So there's like many different roles, but what I do specifically is I design like the levels for the game. So they call that a level designer. And I write the story and just kind of like blend everything together.
Mm-hmm. Give us examples of the type of games you're talking about. And now we know that youngsters watching us this morning, and youngsters all over the world, and even adults for that matter, do a lot of online gaming. You know, they've got games on their phones, their iPads, etc. And you see people kind of stuck with their devices all the time. And a lot of the time they are busy playing games. Would that be the type of games you have possibly developed as well?
No, I don't think I make any games that's like addicting or like casual games, you know, where you're just like chilling and then you're just like, let me just play something on my phone. I make the kind of games that generally have like social and political impacts, because I feel like as a South African Muslim woman of color, my entire existence is super politically charged. So I make a lot of things that I feel need to be spoken about, like for instance the war in Palestine. You know, I made a game on that. Also, I made this game about a teenage girl who like exists it was actually set in 2010, but just how the legacy of apartheid affects her. And I mean, obviously she didn't live through it or anything, and just showing the different ways that people of color are quite like still scarred by white people, especially like in Lens where I come from. I feel like white people are kind of seen as the bar of excellence, you know, so I made a game.
Or the superior race.
Yeah, and like I see that even when my parents talk, or like my aunties or anything, it's always, you know, like even if you do something like really spectacular, everyone's like, oh, she's a Lani now, or whatever, you know, which I think is insane. So that's why
I'm going to make reference to your color. You're very fair-skinned and you have light eyes. So if you walk in the street, you would be mistaken for a white. And I'm sure you get that all of the time. Despite all of that, you still have very strong views about the racial divide. And despite the fact that you were not brought up in the apartheid era, how come you are so conscientized about this issue, about color and the divide between races?
So I think that I became more like aware of it when I went to university, because like where I stay, there's no white people in Lens, and both of my parents are mixed race, so there's like a lot of races like within me that I kind of identify with.
Stuff you kind of grew up and you experienced towards the family, because you as you say, you come from a mixed race family.
Yeah. So, but like even in school and stuff, you know, like colorism is a thing in the people of color community, where if you fade or look a certain way, it's almost like you're more beautiful, which was like insane to me that that's how we view things. But I do also understand that we all like, our perceptions are colored by colonialism and the legacy of apartheid and that kind of thing. But then when I got to university, that's where a lot of people like confused me for being a white person, and that really upset me. Because I'm not white and there's like no white people in my family. So, and especially because I'm like generally quite suspicious of white people as like a Muslim woman of color. So being like confused for one was a bit, it didn't sit well with me.
Why? Did you have bad experiences with white people?
Yeah.
Even though you could pass for a white person?
Yeah.
What was the experience?
So just like, I see like a lot of the Islamophobia that I've experienced, and even like my friends and stuff, it's only been from white people. There was this one time when we were in Rosebank, myself and two of my friends, and they had on topis, and I don't like look Muslim if I'm not wearing a scarf or anything, and these three white guys came in the lift and they saw us, and they were like, they put their hands up and they said, "Don't bomb us." And I was just like, what? This is like staggering. I couldn't believe it. So just to give an example of, you know, like me being quite traumatized by the stuff that white people do. And even there's like microaggressions that I feel like white people do towards us that are sometimes kind of like slipped under the radar. So, I mean, obviously I'm not like, oh, you know, white people are all bad or whatever, but I'm, like I said, generally quite suspicious of them.
All right. We're here to talk about your work, gaming, and the award you've won. But I'm so fascinated by your take on life. And as a young person, it's very refreshing to hear that young people in your age group I hope that lots more like you out there that are aware of the racism issues, not only in South Africa but globally, the issue around Islamophobia, the issues in Palestine, etc. Because if that is in fact happening, then there is hope. There is hope for Muslims. There is hope for the Palestinian issue. There is hope for us as humanity.
Okay, so first just to go to the award that you mentioned in the beginning.
We'll take that after the ad break.
Okay,
Let's focus on the serious stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like older generations often think that like the youth don't care or whatever,
True.
which is extremely untrue. I think we're all very angry because we're sitting with all of the issues from like the previous generations. And
Let me interrupt you here. I view young people as being consumerists, brand conscious. You know, this is, and kind of wanting to be successful and make quick money overnight. They want to be seen as having arrived. They want to be seen as being made a name for themselves. They want to be noticed. They want to be recognized. They want to be on all social media platforms. So that's my view. But yes, of course, I could be totally wrong.
I mean, I think it's definitely like dependent on the individual, but to a large extent, I think a lot of us are on like social media and all of those things because we want validation. And I think that stems from like a much deeper issue of us just kind of feeling ignored or invisible. And I think that like there's so much pressure in the media and stuff to be like hyper aware and to have made it, you know, and like you say, arrived and all of these things. But I don't think it's something that like young people came up with. I think it's just kind of like the effects of capitalism, you know, constantly making you feel like you need to be a certain way, look a certain way, so you buy into that lifestyle. And I mean, we're gonna become like old people at some point, and then they'll and then there'll be new
what
young
a terrible
people.
thought
I know.
Hey?
Yeah, I feel like it's always going to be that it's just going to like intensify as generations go on and kind of falls onto young people to be the scapegoat in society.
We are 25 years into our democracy and we're still seeing the race card being played all the time. Elections are around the corner. Undoubtedly, that card is going to be played in an even bigger way. Do you as a young person have hope that things will change for the positive in our country, that we can look past race, color, culture and creed? We're not there yet. I think we need to be big enough to admit we are not there yet. Do you think that we'll reach a point and we can look past all of those things?
So I used to tutor at Wits University where I was at. And we have, I was tutoring ethics, and we had a lot of discussions about like land redistribution and the government and all of these quite like difficult and contentious subjects. And I was so blown away by how intelligently people are thinking about it, at least like people around my age, you know, the born freeze or whatever. And so, like, based on those discussions, I definitely do have hope for South Africans. I think there's a lot of good people in this country and making informed decisions and like quite intellectual decisions and that kind of thing. So I really, really hope we can survive and thrive as a country. I love South Africa. I love being South African. It's one of my favorite things in the world. But I don't think we can. I don't think we should at least look past race and all of those things because of our history as people of color. I think we need to acknowledge, you know,
we must
happened.
acknowledge, but not let it weigh us down.
I think it's like quite a romantic idea to think, you know, let's look past it, let's do all of these things.
But it is a possibility. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. In a couple of years' time, 10, 20 years' time, we cannot hold on to it because if we do, it's going to weigh us down.
I don't know. I just hope everything goes well for us.
We need to be set free. Let's go for an ad break. Isn't she just a breath of fresh air? Her name is Bahia Khan. She hails from Lenasia. She's here to talk to us about the prize that she won, an international prize, about one of the games she developed, all about the gaming, right after the ad break. And welcome back. We're talking to Bahia Khan. She's the winner of an International Gaming Award. She hails from Lenasia, and she's here to talk about the life of young people these days in South Africa, but also about this amazing award she's won. So Bahia, back to you. Let's put politics aside. Thank you for that refreshing insight. You studied at Wits. What did you study?
I did a degree in game design.
Why game design? What was it that attracted you to that? Did you think there was a future in something like that?
No, actually when I was in high school I was very undecided with what I wanted to do. I thought I didn't really want to study. The thought of actually going to university made me feel sick because I have like a lot of social anxiety, and I just kept thinking there's so many people at a university, I'm not going to be able to cope. But I was lucky in that I found game design because I attended like the art school side at Wits, so it was like our own little environment. But I chose game design because when I was in matric, I really, I mean still now, like enjoyed English and telling stories, but I also like the analytical side of things, like math and science, and I felt like game design kind of combined those two things that I was interested in, so that's why I decided to do it. I didn't really, I mean, I was 18, I didn't think like, oh, what's my long-term goal or whatever. And then it just kind of, I don't know, it was like a massive risk that I took doing game design. And I always say to myself that it's like the biggest risk that I took that paid off in the best way possible.
Good on you. So you with the team, Claire and A.B. Meikle and Tim Flusk, developed a game. Tell us about the game and what made you decide to enter the game, into this international competition. What was so special and unique about the game?
So when I was doing my honors in 2017, our task for the year was to make a game. We could make it in any medium, so like a digital game or a physical game or a board game or anything. And I thought, if I'm going to be making a game for a whole year, I want to make sure that I'm doing it on something important. I'm like using a year of my life on this project. So I knew that I'd make it on like a social issue. And then during that time, unfortunately, there was an increase in the rise of violence against women and children in South Africa. And also, just as a woman, I think it's on our minds most of the time, like that fear of being assaulted or something like that. So I thought, okay, I will make a game on sexual abuse and that kind of thing. And then also, borderline personality disorder features in the game because the girl that's sexually abused has borderline personality disorder, and that's one of the most stigmatized mental illnesses and least discussed disorders.
Why borderline personality disorder? Have you been in touch with someone who suffers from the condition?
Yes, deeply, myself.
Oh, thank you for being so honest.
No, it's fine. So it's, so I have a lot of experience with it, but then there's also like links with that to people that have been sexually abused. And because I wanted to make a game on sexual abuse, I thought that it would be kind of, I don't want to say the good, but like good to put
to create the awareness.
And to put both of those things in one game, just to show like the links between the two of them and how it affects people and that kind of thing. So that's why I decided to make the game on that.
All right, so who's the target audience for a game like this? It's really heavy subjects, really heavy stuff to deal with. Age group of your target audience?
So I feel like my target audience is everyone, but obviously like a child playing it or something, it's quite like sensitive material being shown. There's like scenes in the game that I think is even quite hectic for adults to see. Like you see the protagonist with self-harm marks, so we obviously know that she's suffering and maybe has suicidal ideation or that kind of thing. And there's also this one scene towards the end of the game where the protagonist has like flashbacks, and you see her like her legs kicking and struggling, to kind of show like the bits
And
of
this
memory.
is all
that she
in
has. It's
animated form?
No. The whole game is in film form.
Okay.
The whole thing is film
So
footage.
you used real live actors and actresses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Myself, I played the girl in the game.
All right. What made you, all right, number one, where does one access the game? What does it cost? I presume it's online, so...
Yeah, so because it just got released like a month and a half ago or so, it's only been on our publisher's website, so the people that like kind of gave us money to make the game and that sort of thing. But now our exclusivity period with them is over, so we haven't as yet put it on other platforms, but probably within this month it should go on to other platforms where people can buy it. I don't know how much it costs as yet because it's not up.
What's the length of the game?
The length of it,
Yeah.
it's like 25 minutes.
Okay.
But people can just like follow me on social media, and then I'll post about.
All right. How did it get to the point where you decided to enter into an international competition and then eventually become the winner of the competition?
So there's this competition that happens annually. I think it's one of the like biggest achievements that you can win as an independent game designer. And I thought like, I really like our game. For me, it's like the best game that I've ever played. It's called After Hours.
Okay.
And I thought like, I feel like it's not really a conventional game or the kind of game that I've seen win awards. I'm not sure if it will get chosen, but I owe it to myself to try, so it's better to like live not wondering what if, whatever. So I sent it through, and actually the day before we got the announcement saying that we'd been selected as a nominee, I thought maybe I should pull the game from the competition just because I felt like it felt like too personal, like even though it's not like my life story in the game, it's still like my heart that went into making it. So that's why it felt super personal. But then I didn't pull it out of the competition. We got nominated and we won.
Wow.
So
what did you win? Apart from
money.
the recognition, yes.
Yeah, we won like $3,000.
Okay. Split between 4 people?
No, the way that it works is that it goes to like the company,
Right.
and like I'm like the company or whatever. So yeah.
So Bahia's future, now that you've got an international gaming competition under your belt, what does the future look like? And does this then suggest you're going to go on and make more such games and possibly take it to market?
I don't know what the future looks like, to be honest, like at all. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me, like from my parents to figure everything out. And I was doing my master's, but then I had to stop doing it because my funding got pulled. So that sucked. And I'm just kind of in like this weird space where I didn't expect to win this award, but it happened. And that's major and massive. And there's been a lot of like good opportunities from that, like getting to be on ITV.
Thank you.
But I don't know. Definitely whether I won this award or not, I would be making games. It's just really cool that I won the award. But yeah, definitely I'll be making games, selling those games, all of those things.
What's the market like, the international market for games such as these?
I don't know. I think it's good. People definitely seem to have an interest in it. And I think there's definitely like an audience for it. I'm not sure how big that audience is. But like I didn't really set out to make games to make money. Making money is like a bonus, which is really nice. And I mean, obviously I want to make money. How am I going to survive? But yeah, even like just the fact that when people play the game, they resonate with it so much and are so...
And a very important social message is going out there.
So that for me is like the most rewarding thing that could come out of it.
Well, good luck. We'll be watching the space with you, and hopefully greater things will be coming through as far as you and gaming is concerned. You also mentioned that you're busy with your masters.
Yeah, well, I did 1 year of it.
You're going back to it.
I don't
Inshallah.
know. I mean, I would like to finish my master's at some point, definitely. I don't know why I said I don't know. I will go back to it. I'm just not sure at which point.
Okay, we've almost come to the end of the show. Just very quickly, you indicated that you did a game on the Palestinian situation. What sort of response did you get to that game? And was there huge take-up on that game?
Not really, because I made that game like 3 years ago, where I was still completely unknown. I mean, I'm not like known or anything now, but there's definitely like people who do know about me and my work now. So I think because I made it when I was still like no one knew about me, whatever, there wasn't really like any controversy around it.
Okay, and is there space for you in the job market as a game developer in South Africa, or would you have to go away overseas?
No, there's definitely space in South Africa.
And you'd urge young people to go that route if they're artistic enough?
Yeah, or I mean, even if they're just interested, I think a lot of the time people don't know what they're interested in until they actually pursue something. So yeah, just
follow your dreams, follow your heart. And that's all we have to leave it. Thank you indeed. You've been an absolute breath of fresh air. Lovely talking to you, and all the very best for your future.
Jazakallah so much.
The lovely Bahia Khan talking to us about the international award that she won, obviously of a game she's developed. She shared some views of the thinking of young people in South Africa. And of course, if you're interested in this space, the gaming space, she does say that there is a future for you. And that's where we've come to the end of the show. Thank you for watching. A big thank you to the Let's Talk production team. Take care on the roads. Until Saturday morning at the same time, as always, it is Assalamu alaikum and Khudafiz from me, Julie Alli.
يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا